of violence may be permitted, and still, even committing violence, one may be on the side of Dharma? Well, a very, very profound question, because we are often faced with these questions in our day-to-day lives. What to do in certain situations? We have all heard the axiom, rather, from the Vedic scriptures, ahimsa paramo dharma. But is that the universal truth in all circumstances? Or is there another angle to it? Today, Srila Prabhupada is going to give us very profound knowledge about how to interpret this statement, and also to know that this is not the complete axiom. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to tell us. In shloka number 2.21, we are going ahead with the jnana part of Krishna telling Arjuna that why his compassion towards his near and dear ones is really unwarranted in this situation. He's actually trying to convince Arjuna that the so-called compassion that you're talking about is only compassion in the external sense of the view. But before that, let's say the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Much gratitude to Srila Prabhupada, who has given these wonderful purports enlightening us as to how to live our lives, even the day-to-day questions that we are many times faced with. In his purports, we find profound meaning and profound reference to even day-to-day circumstances. And that's why Bhagavad Gita, as it is, I will continue where I started. So in the shloka number 2.21, Srila Prabhupada gives us very profound knowledge of how to apply these wonderful verses told to Arjuna by Krishna in the day-to-day lives. And that's the reason why Srila Prabhupada's purports are very practical, very instructive, and give us the instructions of how to live our lives meaningfully right now and how to depart gracefully to our ultimate destinations. So the shloka number 2.21 reads, Veda vinashinam nityam ya enam ajam avyayam katham sa purushah partha kam ghatyati hantikam. So he's asking a question. Krishna is asking a question to Arjuna. O Parth, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? So after all the knowledge that Krishna has given to Arjuna in the previous shlokas, now Krishna is questioning Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, you're so knowledgeable. Oh Parth. Parth means the son of Pritha, the son of Kunti. Kunti Devi herself has an illustrious background. She is a great devotee, very knowledgeable too. So you being her son, Arjuna, do answer this question for me. You think that the knowledge I just gave you about the soul, that the soul is indestructible, it is immutable, that means it is unchangeable, it is eternal, never takes birth, never dies. So even knowing all this, why are you having the reservations to shoot your arrows? Do you think that you are anybody's killer? Or you're causing somebody to be killed? Are you the cause of the killing? You still maintain that opinion, Arjuna? Now Srila Prabhupada gives a very, very deep, I would really say deep purport to this. He says that everything has its proper utility, which means everything created in this world has a utility to serve. Nothing is superfluous. And so is violence. Now, Srila Prabhupada tells us that a person who is in complete knowledge knows how to apply the violence to the right circumstance. So it's only he who has the ultimate knowledge of the soul, the super soul, and his relation to God will know when and where to apply violence to its full utility, which means even violence is not without utility. Now let us see how to apply knowledge is a question that is being answered here by Srila Prabhupada by an analogy. And what is a beautiful analogy? Suppose there is a criminal who has murdered somebody in cold blood, and has been found to be guilty. Now the Chief Justice, he sentences the criminal to death, maybe by hanging or by some other means, whatever the means. But he is the deliverer of the death sentence, let us say. Now, would you say that the Chief Justice who has delivered the death sentence is wrong in doing this violence or rendering this violence to the criminal? A very, very important question for us to ponder, because that would actually render the entire judicial system useless. Then why are we having this judicial system at all? If violence in all forms is not correct. Because when somebody is hanged, then, even by the verdict of the law, that's a kind of violence. But is that violence wrong to punish the wrongdoings? Now let us see in two different ways. Even when we're existing in these bodies, if somebody has committed a crime against humanity or against nature in general, if that person is not punished adequately, the person will continue those crimes against innocent subjects. Now, is that a very desirable proposition? Kya ye baat sahi hai? That is one aspect of it. And looking at the point of view of the criminal or the offender himself, it is not even correct on his behalf. Why so? Let us understand. See, to every action, there has to be an equal and opposite reaction. That's the law of nature. That's the law of karma also. Now, if somebody has committed a crime, say a heinous crime like murder, for instance, if that person is not punished now in this life, he will be punished in his next life. Maybe he takes birth in a very downtrodden family. Maybe he's very poor in the next birth. Maybe he doesn't get any education. Maybe he's born with some handicap to be punished for the crime that he had committed in his past birth. Now, isn't it better to punish that person here and now in the same birth so that the person doesn't have to suffer for the crimes later in the next birth, and still later in the next birth gets a chance to, improve his ways? So instead of suffering for the whole of the next life or maybe the life after that, it's best to deliver justice now and here. That is what our justice codes say. And therefore the chief justices, the judges are not wrong in delivering the death sentence because they're doing it according to the code of justice, the code of law. And similarly, there is a code of law of God also. There is a justice that's going to be delivered now or later. Manu Samhita, the treatise that Manu has written, that gives us many such social codes. And according to Manu Samhita, if somebody has taken somebody's life, it is impending that he should be punished by taking away his life. Otherwise, he is going to suffer for maybe, who knows till when and what will be the punishment later. So an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Well, these days we find, so many arguments of compassion against the criminals Well, that's of course, in their own way, they're correct. But if the say the criminal is unrepentant, and if the crime goes unpunished, mistake not that even if he did not get punished in this life, he's going to get punished in the next one, because the laws of nature are relentless. They are going to be delivered no matter why and no matter how. Now, that's why Srila Prabhupada says here, therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial for the murderer himself. And then, when we say this is the law of God, we can actually interpret that when Krishna says that go ahead and kill these people for the restoration of Dharma, because the party of Duryodhana and the Kauravas were very, very, irreligious. They had been actually torturing so many people. So many innocents were suffering because of them. Therefore, to relieve that burden of irreligion, of adharma from the earth, Krishna was ordering Krishna to kill. So is violence wrong here? No. This is violence for the protection of dharma. So while it is said, ahimsa paramo dharma, it is the topmost dharma not to commit any violence against any living organism. It is also said later that dharma hinsa tathaivacha, which means violence for the sake of upholding dharma is also righteous. It is not wrong. In fact, it becomes necessary sometimes to deliver justice through violence. Otherwise, irreligion and immorality is going to thrive in this world. And that's why God had created, these four varnashram. We would say, we talked about these varnashram dharmas, right? The four varnas, that is the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, and the Vaishyas and the Shudras. So it is the nature of the Kshatriyas to be violent, which means they are aggressive, right? So what's the need of Kshatriyas if violence is never needed? Well, it is needed, and it ought to be resorted to when there is no other way out to restore dharma. And that's the conclusion of Srila Prabhupada's purport here. Well, so Krishna is therefore urging Arjuna that he follow his instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. Another argument here was that anyways the soul is never going to be killed. It's only the upper covering, the outer garment, the outer cloth that the soul is wearing, that is the body. Only that is going to be, destroyed. Another beautiful analogy that Srila Prabhupada gives here is that when a doctor, a surgeon, performs a surgical operation on a patient, he does so to remove some ailment, some disease. Suppose there is a bullet lodged in somebody's body, In order to take out the bullet, the surgeon will have to use the knife, right? So even that's a kind of violence, cutting through the body. But is that violence wrong? No. Similarly, if there is a stone in the kidney, to take out the stone in the kidney, the person's body will have to be cut up. But ultimately, that surgical operation or that seeming violence is for the benefit of the patient. And that's why the surgical operations, namely the wars that are sanctioned by Krishna himself, are nothing but pure dharma. And therefore, Krishna is telling Arjuna, think not twice before killing them, because I am telling you to do so. And why so? Because this is necessary for upholding dharma. And that has to be reason enough for you to pick up your weapons. Now, there might be some questions going on in Arjuna's mind still. There are actually. We are going to see them in the further verses. And Srila Prabhupada is again going to explain each one of them very deeply. There might be one question coming in Arjuna's mind, that even if I'm killing Bhishma's and Drona's body, still I'm actually destroying the body and I'm depriving them of this body. What right do I have for this? This might be a sin. But Krishna is going to explain later also that when I order you to pick your weapons and kill, you are absolved anyway of any sinful reaction, because Krishna can never make the wrong decisions. He knows who's to be killed and who's to be, maintained. So with that trust and faith in the word of the God, which comes to us through the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita as it is something that is going to help us through these lives, being on the side of Dharma, taking decisions which are according to the code of law of God, so that we never have to see the lives to be spent in the lower planetary systems. Thank you so much for watching. We will continue next time with the next shloka, which is again a very beautiful and a famous shloka. Until then, please chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And